Hello friends, I'm back with the second part of episode on Iron Pillar and its mysteries. In the first part, we have seen about the Iron Pillar, its whole of its inscription, and some observations out of that particular inscription of about the exploits of King Chandra. Now, in this concluding part, we would look at some of the things mentioned in the inscription. For example, the inscription talks about mention of a place called Vishnupada, which is a hill, and this iron pillar was put up there in this hill called Vishnupada. So we would look at where this Vishnupada might be. We would also look at the second inscription and try to gauge out who inscribed this inscription and why it was inscribed. And in the third section of this episode, we would look at how the historians have postulated that this king Chandra mentioned in the inscription is none other than Chandragupta Vikramaditya. We'd look at about 7 or 8 kings who have been mentioned by various historians as as probably being King Chandra. So we will discount all those 7 or 8, and we will put the name of Chandragupta Vikramaditya as to how this king is the King Chandra mentioned in the inscription. Now, before that, would just like to look at this pillar once again. I'll just magnify it. You can see the glancing this sign this on the top of the pillar. There is this glancing signature. Now, this is from a cannonball strike. In 1739, when Nadir Shah invaded India and he captured Delhi, he tried to demolish this particular iron pillar by a cannon strike. But what happened was that the cannon ball ricocheted off this from this particular spot and hit the mosque behind, which is the Quwwatul ul Islam mosque. And there were lots of people praying there at that time. The cannonball ricocheted off this pillar and hit the people, the mosque, and injuring and killing many. So Nadir Shah then went away because he could not destroy this. And this is the sign of that cannonball which had ricocheted off this pillar in 1739. So this is something about another interesting fact about this particular pillar. Now look to where is Vishnupada. So the line sixth, or the last line, says that Ranasur Vishnu Pade Grau Bhagavato Vishnu Ordho Dhidvajah Stapitah. Having in faith fixed his mind upon the god Vishnu, this lofty standard of divine Vishnu was set up on the hill called Vishnupada. Now we know that this is a hill called Vishnupada. Why it is called Vishnupada? Simply because the foot imprints of God Vishnu are imprinted on that particular hill. So that hill is a famous was a famous religious and pilgrimage spot in ancient times. But where this Vishnupada can be, there is a spot called place called Vishnupada near Gaya, but that has been discounted simply because the mention of Vishnupada is there in Mahabharata. It is also mentioned in the Ramayana. So we'll just look at the mention in Mahabharata. So this is what Mahabharata Vanaparva, uh, book 3, chapter 130, verse 8. So, O thou whose effulgence is like unto that of the sun, here is the sacred Tirtha called Prabhasha, the favored spot of Indra, and where removeth all sins. Yonder is visible the region of Vishnupada, and here is the delightful and sacred river Vipasha. So Mahabharata states that this Vishnupada, which is a hill, this is stated near the river called Vipasha. Vipasha is a river in Punjab. Now it is being called as River Bias. So, as per the Mahabharata, and there are a couple of other references of Vishnupada in Mahabharata, and it says that this sacred spot of Vishnupada was near the river Vipasha or Bias. So, Ramayana, book 2, chapter 68, verse 18-19, it describes Vishnupada as a hill on the banks of the river Vipasha. So, this particular hill, having the marks of footprints of Vishnu, could be located anywhere between Kashmir and the Punjab. It's quite possible if there is a river in central India called Vipasha, uh, because this pillar was made at Udaygiri in Madhya Pradesh. So, if there is a hill called Vishnupada or there is a river called Vipasha, but Vipasha is normally mentioned as the river, one of the tributaries of Indus. So, it could be anywhere between Kashmir and Punjab, my guess is, and other historians have also stated that it could be anywhere between Ambala or Kurukshetra. However, present status of this hill, this Vishnupada is not known. So we have to stop it right there because we know the location, but it isn't there anymore. So this is about Vishnupada. Now we'll go to another inscription on the pillar. So uh, Alexander Cunningham, he states that this pillar uh, is in situ. That is, it is located at the same spot for last thousands of years. But it's on a hill. Vishnupada is a hill. The present location uh, of this Mehroli is not a hill. It's a plain. It's a plain. It's not a hill. And J.F. Fleet also states he doesn't agree with Alexander Cunningham's observation, and he states that it is actually Mathura from where this particular pillar has been relocated to its present position. So we have this another inscription which says that Samvat Dehali 1109 Anangpal Bahi. So Anangpal tightened the nail or the iron pillar in Samvat 1109. Samvat 1109 would be something like AD 1160, or sorry, AD 1052. So, and why did he tighten it? He tightened it because he relocated this iron pillar from some place and put it at its present location. So in order to fix this thing firmly, he tightened it, or that is what the inscription says. So Mathura is not known for hills. There is and not many hills in that particular region. But if you look back at what Mahabharata says about Vishnupada, what Ramayana says about Vishnupada, then it is neither in Mehroli village nor it is near Mathura. It has to be somewhere near Punjab. So this is another inscription which proves that uh, this particular iron pillar was transported from X place and placed at the present location, which at that point of time, about 1,000 years ago, had lots of temples. There were Hindu temples, there were Jain temples, and this particular pillar was uh, fixed on that particular spot in that particular temple complex, because we know that about that Quatul ul Islam mosque, which was constructed by the Muslim sultans of Delhi. They broke down about 27 temples, and it is written there in the inscription at this mosque, and they destroyed 27 temples to uh, to make this particular mosque called Quatul ul Islam, or the Might of Islam mosque. So this is about this another inscription on the pillar. Now we would look at the last part, the last section of this particular episode on Iron Pillar. So who is King Chandra? Now we know now that this is Chandragupta Vikramaditya, but when uh, there was a lot of issues about 100 odd years ago, 120, 30, 40 years ago, and various historians gave a list of the names whom they thought was King Chandra. And now we have zeroed it on Chandragupta Vikramaditya or Chandragupta II. But how we had done it, or how the historians had done it. First, they had about eight or seven or eight names whom they thought would be this King Chandra. So we have Chandragupta Maurya, we have Kanishka, we have Chandravarman, King of Bengal, we have Samudragupta, we have a brother of Mihirkula named Chandra. This is as per Jonathan Fleet. We have Chandragupta I, the father of Samudragupta. We have Chandragupta II, Vikramaditya, who is the son of Samudragupta. And the last but not the least, we have Kumargupta. So we'll just go one by one quickly as to how these names were relegated and Chandragupta II was zeroed in. So we have the first name of Chandragupta Maurya, and historian Harishchandra Seth. He says that the pillar was constructed in memory of Chandragupta Maurya by Chandragupta II. This looks very improbable. The difference, the time period between these two kings are about 700 years, and it looks quite impossible that one king would actually write an eulogy of a king who is not of his dynasty and who is dead about 700 years back. There is also one line of thinking that the technology available at the time of Chandragupta Maurya, 3rd, 4th century BC, was not equipped, what it was in about 400 AD. So if you could look at this iron pillar, the inscription particularly, uh, it's made up of solid iron, wrought iron, and if the technology of having this inscription made on such a pillar was there, it was not there in the 4th century BCE. Even considering that Chandragupta II would somehow remember Chandragupta Maurya through his inscription. Uh, yes, it is the fact that Chandragupta Maurya did conquer the south, but he did not go up to the Balkh or Vahalika. Uh, the area of Herat, modern day Herat in Afghanistan, Kabul, and Arakosia or Kandahar was a part of Chandragupta Maurya's empire, and not Balkh or Vahalika. So Chandragupta Maurya would be ruled out In this case, no king ever has put in such an effort to write about some king who is dead about 700 years back. So Chandragupta Maurya is also ruled out. There is another thing some historians has postulated, that this inscription was inscribed by Chandragupta Maurya himself. The technology available, as I said, to make these kind of iron pillars which did not rust was not available in the 4th century BCE. Otherwise, Ashoka would have made most of his inscription on such iron pillars. But the thing is that Ashokan pillars are monolith sandstone pillars, and they are not made. They have not been made into made in an iron thing. And thirdly, the inscription is different in the sense that Ashokan inscription are in Prakrit language or Pali language, but here the language is Sanskrit. Plus, the inscription is in Ashokan times was used as early Brahmi. Here we have the Gupta Brahmi, so it becomes very difficult to say that it was Chandragupta Maurya who inscribed this particular inscription and set up this particular pillar. And there is also no reason to believe, I mean, there could be, but legends would suggest that Chandragupta became a Jain after his abdication, and there is no way one could easily say that Chandragupta Maurya was a Bhagavat or a devotee of Vishnu, as this iron pillar would say. So, this is how Chandragupta Maurya has been ruled out. Now we have Kanishka. So R.C. Mazumdar, the great historian, he states that there is a coin of Kanishka has the legend of Kanishka Chandra Naum in Khotani language. Agreed, there may have been something related to this. This type of coin may exist, but the fact of the matter is that the inscription talks about Bengal, it talks about the south, and Kanishka was a great emperor, but his empire in India was from, say, southern Afghanistan to Banaras, and even parts of, say, Patliputra was under his influence, and parts of maybe central India as well. But he is not known in south. Nobody knows Kanishka in south. Neither he had conquered Bengal as the or reconquered Bengal or defeated his enemies in Bengal as the inscription says. So to make Kanishka as the Chandra of this particular inscription is also ruled out. Now we have got Chandravarman. He was the king of Bengal, a part of Bengal in Susunia, which is at Bankura district in modern day West Bengal. And this king has inscribed his inscription in Gupta script at this Bankura hill, and he described himself as Bhagavata. Friends, again, the inscription of Iron Pillar describes the king as Bhagavata or worshipper of Vishnu, and this also describes this king as Bhagavata or worshipper of Vishnu. And you can see this particular inscription. I'll just magnify this. You can see the Gupta script here, and there is a discus, a Vishnu's sign. The issue with this particular king is that he was a very small king, and this king has been mentioned in the Allahabad pillar inscription of Samudragupta, and he is being described as someone who was exterminated by Samudragupta. Uh, this king would go up to Punjab and then construct this particular piece of marvel. Doesn't look like. There is another king, Chandravarman, in the 5th century CE, who was the king of Malwa. But this king also is very small in the sense that he was a governor of Kumaragupta first, the son and successor of Chandragupta II. So it doesn't look like that these two kings who had a very small area to govern would conquer Bengal, would conquer northwest up to Balkh, and everybody would know their name in the south. It doesn't look like. So both these Chandravarman in the 4th century and Chandravarman in the 5th century, they have also been ruled out. Now we have Samudragupta. This is another name which is proposed by historian who ruled between 335 to 375 or 380 AD. The thing is that the name mentioned in the inscription is Chandra and not Samudra. Had Samudragupta inscribed this inscription, he would have put his name, which is Samudra and not Chandra. But there is another theory which says that Samudragupta constructed this pillar and inscribed this inscription in memory of his father, Chandragupta I. So Samudragupta's father was also named as Chandragupta. We call it as Chandragupta I, and his son was also named as Chandragupta, Chandragupta II, as we call him. So this is what the historian talk about Samudragupta. Now Samudragupta, as I said, his name is not there. It should have been Samudra, but it should have been Samudra, but it is Chandra. But again, Samudragupta did conquer south, but he did not go up to Balkh, Vahalika. And Bengal is not mentioned in his Allahabad inscription, which proves that it was already part of his empire. So Samudragupta's name is also ruled out. Now we come to the big one. This is Chandragupta I, or the father of Samudragupta. Now the thing is that this theory is correct if it can be proved that Chandragupta I was able to capture Bengal as stated in the Iron Pillar inscription. And also the record for Samudragupta conquest gave him certain parts of Bengal. So it was actually Samudragupta who conquered Bengal. Places like Samatata in modern Komila district, Davaka 100 km east of Guwahati, Assam, and Kamarupa. These are all mentioned in Allahabad inscription, part of Samudragupta's empire. And Chandragupta I is not mentioned. There is another Vayu Purana, there is another uh, mention of Gupta Empire, which says that their empire at first was between Saketa and Magadha, which is from modern day Prayagraj or Allahabad to modern day Bihar, and not into Bengal. They did not conquer the Bengal at that time, around the time of Chandragupta I. So the name of Bengal or other parts such as Vahalika, Punjab, they are not associated with Chandragupta I. In fact, it was Samudragupta who first went up to Punjab, and so his sphere of influence was all throughout the regions of West Punjab and up to Indus. He was the first one to contact these small kings there, including the remnants of Kushan power who had retreated back towards their homelands in Afghanistan. So it was Samudragupta who made contact with them and not Chandragupta I. And also the inscription talk about the fact that southern India knows about this king, and it cannot be associated with Chandragupta I. He was emperor of a kingdom located between modern Bihar to parts of eastern UP, and not he did not conquer the south, or neither he went up to the northwest. So his name is also ruled out. Now we have, as far as J. Fleet, there is a brother of Mihirkula who was a honey king in about 530, and his brother he names at Chandra, and this Chandra is mentioned in the iron pillar inscription, because somehow J.F. Fleet thinks that Mehroli is somehow corrupted to a village or a place which was founded by Mihirkula, and he states that it was his brother Chandra who whose name is mentioned in the inscription. But then again, this looks far-fetched. Uh, there is no mention of a king called Chandra. There is mention of Mihirkula's brother ruling Kashmir, whom he killed and then got the throne of Kashmir after he was defeated in about 530. But the name of that king is not Chandra, and Chandra, nobody knows him in the south as well. So this is a very far-fetched imagination, or whatever you may call it, by J.F. Fleet, who thinks that Chandra is the brother of Mihirkula, whose name has been inscribed in the particular inscription. So this name is also ruled out. Now, Chandragupta II. So, as stated in the iron pillar inscription, Chandra undertook an expedition against Vahalikas by getting across the seven mouths of Sindhu or Indus River. So, he thus conquered the territories of Devaputras, Shahis, and Shahanu Shahis, which is the remnants of Little Kushans, who represented the remnants of the retreating Kushan power in northwest up to Balkh. So this may have been a strike by Chandragupta II to extend his influence up to the northwest, and in doing so he defeated the retreating this Kushan power of Shahanshahus. So he went all the way up to the Balkh in Afghanistan, and in view of the conquest of North India by Chandragupta, the Gupta power was consolidated and attained its greatness. We have also other proofs as to why the king mentioned in the iron pillar, which is Chandra, is the same Chandragupta Vikramaditya. So we have this copper coin of Chandragupta II, and on the obverse you can see the word Chandra, the same Chandra which is mentioned in the Mehroli inscription. Again, how do you prove that this king was Param Bhagavata? Of course, there are many inscription of Chandragupta II calling himself Param Bhagavata, or the sincere devotee of Vishnu. But this is a particular silver coin. You can see the face of the king. This is Chandragupta II, and on the reverse you can see the Garuna, and there is a legend around this Garuna, which in Gupta Brahmi script, the language is Sanskrit, and it says Param Bhagavata Maharaja Dhiraj Shri Chandragupta Vikramaditya. So the whole name, along with his association with Vishnu, is there in this particular coin. So this proves that this king short name was Chandra, and he was also a devotee of Vishnu, like what has been sent in the Mehroli pillar inscription. So this proves that the king mentioned in the iron pillar inscription is none other than Chandragupta II Vikramaditya, who ruled between about 375 to about 414 AD. Last but not least, we have Kumaragupta I. This pillar, friends, if you could remember last episode, this pillar is a posthumous inscription. It says that the king has left this world, the earth. So this is a posthumous inscription, and a king would not come down from the heavens to write about his own eulogy in an inscription. It has to be done by his successor. So it is postulated that the king would have died, that is Chandragupta too, but this iron pillar was constructed and the inscription put in this pillar by none other than his son and successor Kumargupta I, who was idealizing his father's exploits, eulogizing his father's exploits through this particular inscription. And last but not the least, who could have written such a beautiful poetry? This is poetry actually. It's in verse, so it's poetry. So who could have written it on the instructions of, say, Kumaragupta? It would be a very romantic idea to think that this particular inscription is a composition of the great Kalidasa himself, because he was the court poet of Chandragupta Vikramaditya. This is just a romantic thought. We won't find much evidence to this particular idea. So, friends, this is it. Gone through every detail or many details about this particular inscription of iron pillar. It hasn't rusted yet, and maybe next time, next week, I'll be back with another episode on another facet of ancient India. So till then, goodbye, take care.